Instagram and Twitter, Snapchat vanished today, what else would you have?
I'm so happy to even have met you, because I feel like with you, you're one of the realest people I've ever met. The way you look at things and how you're detailed, and you don't let things slide. If it's on your mind, you want to talk about it. And just kind of knowing a little bit about your past, and knowing that your father was a famous gospel singer. But I want to go a little bit into who you are and how you became who you are, which is, pretty much a musical genius. I would say that. Come on, let's give yourself a little bit of credit.
Not yet. I give myself credit, but I'm not a musical genius yet. I could be. I think I've probably made my musical journey a little bit harder for myself than was necessary, given the fact, like you said, my dad is a 10-time Grammy award-winning gospel singer. But aside from that, he's also got Grammys for, being a producer. And he's done vocal coaching and vocal production for, like, anybody who's anybody. And when I first decided I wasn't going to go to college to pursue music, he taught me a very valuable lesson in a very, like, abrupt way. So it was like, okay, well, just so you know, you're pretty and you can sing and you look very young, which will work, in your favor, and you're small, you're athletic, so you can dance, but there's always going to be somebody that can out-sing you, out-dance you, that's prettier than you. So you're going to need to learn all facets of the business. And so then it was like, okay, school was in session, but at home, And so then when I turned 18 and I was able to, like, go to sessions by myself, and I thought I, like, knew everything. And so I was like, I don't want to listen to your way. It's old school. It's like the old way. And quickly I learned that the old school way, more, taking more steps along the way, was probably the better way, because taking the shortcut, I had to double back anyway. But I had to double back at the expense of being gypped out of my publishing. For major records that have charted.
Who were you signed to?
I was signed to Con Live.
Oh, you were signed to Akon's record?
For 5 years, 5 years, 3 albums, whichever came last.
And that was your first deal you've ever
That
signed?
was my second deal. My
Wow.
first deal was in high school. I was in a girl group.
What were they called?
I was actually in 2 girl groups. The first one was Rhapsody, and the second one was Diary.
And who was the label on that?
The first one, Rhapsody, we were managed by a guy named Adrian Gervitz, and his kids were like Disney kids, and he got us to Jive.
Oh, Jive Records.
Yeah. So season 1, Tubby and Morgan Hardman actually got me back to Clive, and Clive at the time was at Epic, and so he was like, you always have a home here. And I just didn't feel like I was ready.
And you were what? You were
in
high school, so you're 17 maybe?
Yep, my junior year was Rhapsody. And then right after I graduated was Diary.
So you were signed multiple times.
Twice.
Straight out of high school. Or actually, were you in homeschool at that time?
No,
or were you actually in high school?
I was in high school. And so Adrian was doing our dealings with Jive. And then the group dismembered. So poof.
So you were in that whole, you were living in Woodland Hills at the time, right?
I was born in Santa Monica.
So you were raised in Santa Monica? That's where you were born? Or
I was born at Santa Monica.
What, Santa Monica Hospital?
Yep, and I had my son at that same hospital.
Wow, and did you do that on purpose, or?
No, my grandmother, my mom's mom, is a psychiatric nurse. She's an RN. She's got her doctorate. She's got her master's in all these different things. And when I was born, 1987, she was the director, I believe, of nursing staff there. And my cousin Joy found this amazing OBGYN when she had her kids. And so when I was, and every OBGYN works out of different hospitals. And that particular OBGYN worked out of St. John's and Santa Monica UCLA. So when I got pregnant, my mom and my grandmother insisted that I go with this OBGYN. And those were my two hospital choices for delivery. And so my grandmother, of course, being the medical professional in the family, was like, you need to deliver at Santa Monica UCLA because they have the top neonatal intensive care unit should anything go wrong and blah, 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 blah. And so it just so happened to be the same hospital that
And
she
how old
helped
were
deliver.
you?
I was 22 when I had my son.
22 years old. You were just a baby.
A baby, yeah.
And what would you say for a mother? You know, obviously there's shows on MTV, 16
Yeah.
and pregnant. What would that be like? I don't even know, because I was 30 when I had my first kid. And being obviously a dad, it's different than a mother.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually friends with some of the girls from 16 and Pregnant who have now
who?
gone on to do Teen Mom and Teen Mom 2. So
OG?
Teen Mom OG and Teen Mom 2. So I'm friends with Amber Portwood, and she's on Teen Mom OG. And she introduced me to Kale Lowry. She's on Teen Mom 2. And Kale introduced me to Leah Messer, who's also on Teen Mom 2. My mom and my dad. So let me be clear. Recently, I made a post on social media, so it's now common knowledge that the man that raised me is not my biological father, but that's the only father I've ever known. And I do know who my biological father is. At one point, we did have a relationship. He chose to disown me. First for being on reality TV. Then he didn't want me to have any, he didn't want people to associate me with my siblings on his side, my brother Kyle and my sister Lauren. So he cut me off from having any type of relationship with them. And then...
Because of religion, or?
No, it was first I was on reality TV. He didn't like the portrayal and whatever. And then when
Wait, sorry, let me stop you because I don't understand. Because you're on reality TV, he cut you off.
Yeah.
And this is your father, your real father,
yeah,
right?
the one who
biological father.
Did it to my mom and got her pregnant with me, yeah.
That one.
That one.
No, because I have a real problem with that. If you're someone's child and you just own them because of something you've done, like right or wrong, it doesn't matter.
Right.
What is the right of that parent? Because you would never do that to your child.
No.
I know you wouldn't.
No.
Because people make mistakes, but it's not even a mistake. You made a choice,
Correct.
So what I'm trying to understand, because I'm a father, I would never do that to my child.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like for you?
At first, then the nail in the coffin was when I came out and identified as bisexual or then a lesbian. So then, at that point, he and I had had no communication since 2015. So at that point, maybe even 2014, he wasn't able to reach me. So he lashed out at my mom. And when she told me about it, I was just like, I don't even know why you still communicate with this man. Like, he's ridiculous, And so at first it was painful. And then I was angry. And then I was kind of like confused. And then I was just like, you know what? It really didn't matter. And that ties directly into my stepdad, who is my dad to me, because he's known my mom since second grade. And they grew up together in Huntsville, Alabama. And so once I was born, my mom took me back to Huntsville, and she married my stepdad when I was 1. And then we came back to LA when I was in first grade. And so ever since, how old are you when you go to first grade? Like 6, 5, 6?
5, yeah.
Yeah, so I was 6 when my sister was born, and I was in first grade. I started first grade here in LA, and I grew up in the Valley. And so I grew up, though, Seventh-day Adventist.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, even for me, right?
And, well, the reason that that's kind of an important little tidbit is because Seventh-day Adventists the rules of our religion are the same as Orthodox Judaism. The only difference is we believe Christ is a Messiah. They don't. So if my whole Seventh-day Adventist father and family could accept the fact that I was on reality TV, not faking the funk, really exposing my life, the ins and outs. We saw my mom at one point. We've seen that I had a failed relationship season 2. We saw that the relationship with my baby daddy wasn't good from seasons 1 until current. And I really didn't hold back. So if my dad's, for purposes of clarification, if my stepdad's mom, dad, all 4 siblings, there's like 18 of us, grandkids. So if the 17 others could accept me, and then my whole dad, who goes on the road and performs and is known for praising the Lord, can accept the fact that I'm on reality TV and I'm inappropriate and I say inappropriate things and I do inappropriate things, and I now choose to be with women and, talk about licking vagina and whatever, and I had a baby out of wedlock. I didn't really need my biological dad to accept or love me, because I didn't not have that growing up, because I always had my dad.
But do you ever feel, like there's something missing? Because the fact is, like, somebody in your heart, and listen, my dad wasn't always there for me either, right? So I can understand where you're coming from, but deep inside you, you feel like, were you not good enough? Were you not accepted?
I never felt like that.
Never?
Ever. Not ever.
You never thought twice saying like...
Never thought twice, because I had my dad. And that was from infancy. So I don't even remember really when I realized I had a different dad. But I do know that once I realized it, I wanted my mom to talk to him, because I wanted to change my last name to Thomas, because now I've got 2 siblings. My mom's last name is Thomas, my brother's last name, my sister's last name, my dad's last name, all my cousins, my grandparents, and I would go to school and I would use the last name Thomas. And it was even in like the school roster all the way up until junior high. And then I had to start using my legal name. So there was this whole blow up, because, my biological father had signed my birth certificate. We knew where he was. We knew who he was. He was in and out of my life. And we couldn't, my dad couldn't legally adopt me without my biological father legally consenting. And so he refused. And then he was going to break my dad's neck, and he was going to beat him with a baseball bat, and he was going to blow up the house. And, it was F this one and F that one. I vividly remember that conversation.
You vividly? No, you remember that conversation.
I remember, I can tell you exactly. We were getting ready to go to church. It was a Sabbath morning. So for us, that's Saturday morning. And, those, back in the day, the speakerphone sat on the counter, and then you could pick up the cordless and you pull the antenna. He was on the speakerphone in the kitchen. And, our kitchen was like a loop-de-loo, and I was coming down the stairs into the kitchen, and the garage door was on the wall. And as I passed through, I remember him, like, going off. And it was my dad who ushered me quickly into the garage, like, get into the car, And so from that day forward, I started asking questions like, this doesn't make sense. Like, he's just too angry. Like, I remember summer of 5th grade going into 6th grade. Me and my dad are in the car. I don't know where we were going, but we were headed home. And I said, did someone cheat on something? Because this doesn't just seem like my mom took me and, ran away, because he has access to me. So very young, I realized that there were deeper things. And so, but I never really cared to really follow up or, kind of explore why he was in and out, or it was weird,
But do you think your biological father wanted to be part of your life?
I think he wanted to, but I just don't think he knew. And I still don't think he knows now, like how. I don't even think he knows how to be that for my younger siblings that he had with my stepmom. And I say that because my sister actually found me on social media summer of 2016 or 17. She found me on Instagram.
So after 14, because you just had your son 2 years prior, right?
No, this was... I had my son in 2010, so my son was 5 going on 6 or 6 going on 7 when my sister actually found me. She was like 16 going on 17, or maybe she had just turned 17.
And you have a relationship with her now?
It's touch and go. So she's got a touch and go relationship with my dad as well.
But touch and go with you too as well.
It's touch and go with me as well, because he is very controlling. So he's got the access to her iCloud, and he knows when we talk, and he made her Instagram private, and so he never accepted my request. And I just take solace in knowing that, I've never been this open about it, but I'm not, I don't bash him. I just don't think he's capable of being a good parent.
So then you're forgiving.
Yeah, I forgive him. And that's why I'm not angry. Yeah, I had my dad. Like, I don't think that really resonates with people. Like, when you have a man who took a vow when he married my mom, you know.
Were they married when they had you?
No, so my mom and my bio dad, my mom only met him because my grandfather, my mom's dad, played professional baseball. And
wow, so you have
major league, yeah,
athletes, I mean professional singers. Yeah. That's pretty amazing. So you come from that. And that's probably why your son's so athletic too as well.
Correct. So my mom's dad played in the major leagues, and he was out here in LA, I think, with the Angels. And my grandmother and him had divorced, and my grandma shipped my mom here.
Your grandma shipped your mom?
from Huntsville, Alabama.
And why'd she do that?
To be with my grandpa for the reasons I can't remember. But she was attending Linwood Academy, and that was where she met my bio dad. But she always stayed in contact with my stepdad. They were best friends. And so when he swooped her up, he swooped me up, and it was us. So that was, going back to the whole, I wanted my last name changed and I wanted my stepdad to adopt me conversation, that whole topic. That was when I really realized like what it meant to have a different dad. And it was hard kind of like for me to process like, okay, so you did it to my mom, and then I was born, and then you did it to my mom, and then they were born, and then you did it to her, and then they were born. So I have the same last name as the two that I don't live with, but the two that I live with and grew up with, siblings-wise, I don't get to have that last name, but this is my life. Like, this is my family. This is all I know. So I was never treated any differently, you know what I mean, than my siblings that I grew up in the same household with. So once I got to junior high and I had to use my last name, that was really when another wave of like all the questions started to come. Like, where do I come from? Like, who are these people? Like, where are they in the world? Like, do they know that I exist? Like, what the hell, So I knew nothing about my lineage as a Slaughter. And then season 4 of the show, so 2017, one of my best friends, my grandmother then went on to be work at the VA in Westwood for 32 years. And she was the chief of nursing staff when she left. And that's important because one of my best friends works at the VA. All I knew about my paternal grandfather was that he was a war vet.
So your father was a war vet, your grandmother
no, my paternal grandfather was a war vet. My biological father's father. And when he came back from the war, they told me that he was like all messed up. He was addicted to heroin. He had all these kids.
Was your father into music as you're growing up? He was performing on the road. Was he around? Or what was that like?
So, growing up, I think my dad signed his deal. My brother was born in 89. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, my dad signed in 87 or 88 to Warner Brothers. So my dad was constantly on the road. We went from Huntsville to Nashville back to LA. And when we got here to LA, we had the nannies and the housekeepers that lived with us.
Wow, so he was doing really well.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ice skate, and I was over ice skating. Then I wanted to do gymnastics, so I was a gymnast, and I had the fancy grips, and I had all the leotards, and I had all the ankle braces and everything you needed and all the right, physical therapy, everything that came along with it. And then got injured, and then I was like, during the downtime, my dad was actually doing an album for my first cousin, Christy. And we grew up like sisters. They were actually living with us. My dad's oldest brother and his family. Well, second oldest brother. They were living with us, and my dad came to me one day and was like, I need you to do some backgrounds for Christy. Do you think you can hold this note? Because let's not forget, this is not my biological father. So as far as I know, no one on either biological side of my family, from my mom or my bio father, can sing. And so he was like, let me hear you hit this note, and whatever the note was. And he was like, okay, not bad. Let me hear you hit this note. Okay, not bad. And then he gave me this whole rundown. It's one thing to be able to sing live. Being in the studio is different. You're going to have on headphones, so keep one ear off so you can hear. And I got into the studio, and I did the backgrounds. And I remember coming out, my dad was like, I didn't want to pump your head up too much, but that was really good. Because, and he said, what makes you really good, you have this great raspy tone, but you still have a really vast range. Your ear is actually good. That was my first time ever in a studio. And he said, even with the headphones on, you could hear. And you sound the same in the studio as you do live. And that is rare. And so he said, do you think you want to try doing music? And I was like, I don't know, maybe. And then I started listening to stuff like Joe Sample and Layla Hathaway, and I was always obsessed with the wave. My mom tells a story about how I wouldn't let my friends play with my dollhouse at my birthday party until they all listened to the wave. I was like 8. So I've always liked jazz, and of course I grew up on gospel and classical, and so I was really into like Dave Koz, but then I got into like Cree Summer, and flowetry was popular when I was, I think, like junior high age. The Joe Sample and Layla Hathaway album, and then I was obsessed with that one because a lot of the songs on there were from the movie Moulin Rouge. And then
Your range, by the way, is really high. I don't, I've heard you, when you do your live.
It could be higher.
Higher?
It could be higher. I've not been doing my job as an artist. I've been slacking. So my upper register could be a lot better.
I'm impressed though, because, and it's something about when you actually are singing, I feel like, something comes over you and you become, this professional, and you take things seriously. You're not just even playing with it.
No.
Because when you're on live, you would think you're having fun, playing around, but for you, it's an experience. I feel like I'm at a concert watching you live.
I would hope that that's the experience, because for me, it's not a joke. And then the way that my dad taught me, it was so militant. It wasn't fun. And I remember he would say things like, I would get in there because we've always had a studio at home. So I would get in there and I would goof off and I would play, and he would, stop playing. And I was like, ugh, all right. And he would say, you've got to be quick. You have to learn how to be quick. And I didn't get it. I was like, I'm at home. What do you mean? And we would fight. And he would be like, well, you're not ready. When you're ready to take instructions, then we'll try again. So you're done for the day. That was how he would do it. And then I would acquiesce at some point. I would be frustrated, like, all right, whatever. And I would be frustrated. And he would say, well, I can hear the frustration in your delivery. So you're done.
So how do you feel about that now, though?
So now, once it got to a point where I mastered it with him at home, he then put me in front of his colleagues, the Underdogs, Eric Dawkins, Ricky Minor, so many people. And excuse me, that's when I realized, I think it was my first session with Eric Dawkins by myself, without my dad present. And he and Eric are like this. So my parents never let me go to a session without them, never let me go to a rehearsal, or if I was with a girl group, one parent was always present. Eric was like family, and he comes from a gospel background, Dawkins and Dawkins. So I don't know what it was. I think my dad had to go on the road. Something was going on with my mom, and so I was able to go to this session by myself. And I was in there and I was like knocking it out. But my dad had drilled that into my head. And that's, Eric said from the control room, just relax, like have fun. And I was like, you don't understand. My dad said I can't waste people's time and I have to be best. He was like, you sound amazing and you're working quickly, very quickly. I want you to have fun. And so I was like, okay, well, that's why he did that. So that was where I learned to respect people's craft and their time. And as a result, people even now are shocked at how quickly I'll sit down and write a really meaningful record. They're shocked at how quickly I can actually execute a record from the ground up before I can execute a record that somebody wrote for me. They're surprised now that I can actually do my own vocal arrangements, and I don't need someone in the studio to micromanage me. I know when I'm flat, I know when I'm sharp, I know when I'm behind the beat. I don't really have a lot of rhythm. Let's turn on the metronome, so
you're, a true professional, because your father, the Thomas Tai'd, gave you these military instructions to be a professional. Did you ever really just have fun, I would say, or did you take it like a business because that's how you were raised?
I had fun when I was in the girl groups, and then the girl groups weren't so fun because I've never been a follower. So I was also, this is going to sound crazy when I say it, but I was also sexually behind all of my peers.
What does that mean?
Meaning I didn't have a boyfriend, as a teenager. I wasn't into boys. I didn't have my first kiss until it was 2 weeks after my 17th birthday. I was a virgin until after I graduated high school. My peers were way more advanced. So the girls in my group wanted to wear certain things, and I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't want to wear that. They wanted to wear high heels. I didn't. They wanted to wear, skirts and stuff. So I was always the one in the group that was kind of like tomboy chic.
What's tomboy chic?
They made me get my hair done, and they would put light makeup on me, but I was the one that had the swishy sweatpants and and then they would put a crop that stopped underneath my belly button. But my group members, they're coming in here, flannels on, bralettes on, pants, low-rise jeans, pubic bones showing and all kind of shit. And I'm just over here I don't want to do that. So I was always...
Was that because of your gospel side of the
family?
No,
that just was...
Was that just you?
I didn't... That was just me. I think that had nothing to do with my religion or my spirituality. I think that had everything to do with the fact that I had two very attentive parents in the home. And my dad loved on my sister and I constantly. And so my dad would do things like if I wanted to take a bath, he would do cute little things like he would make me a smoothie to take to my bath. Or he always allocated time to take me on a daddy-daughter date, and then my sister got hers because I didn't want to share my time, so then...
Don't you love good dads, though?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It makes the biggest difference.
The biggest difference in the world. So my, the first boyfriend that I would say was a boyfriend, he pulled up next to me one day as I was leaving the gym. And my mom's a fitness trainer, and his dad's label was in the same building as this gym. So we were leaving at the same time. And he was like, "You're so pretty." And I was like, "Thanks. My dad tells me every day." Skirt. And I pulled off. That was it. So that never fazed me.
So the guy gives you a compliment, says, "You're so pretty." And you're like, "See ya."
Because I already know. I already know what you're... And I'm not even doing the sex yet. So get out of here, bro.
And who was that guy? Do you know him?
Yeah.
Was somebody Fizz? Or?
No.
No. Somebody different. Completely.
Yeah, somebody different. So I ended up not doing, I didn't want to do girl groups anymore because I didn't want to conform. So the girl groups were fun when we were in rehearsals and we would goof off, but then it wasn't fun for me because I didn't, once it came time to put on a showcase, because I'm like, you guys don't really take this seriously. Like, one of my group members was dating Omari's brother, and she would disappear.
Was that Janae?
No, this was before Janae. She would disappear for days at
Orion, right?
Yeah, one of my group members was dating Orion. She would disappear for days at a time.
Ooh, I think I know who it is.
And then she would come back, and it was like, what the hell? Like, we couldn't even practice for a showcase because you went MIA. And then she was obsessed with Orlando Brown. And then she would disappear for days. And then I got in trouble for her because of him. And I'm like, I cannot. Like, this is just too, like, our focus was different. I really wanted to be a megastar at 15, 16, right? And I knew what that was going to take.
Did you perform, and because now it's bringing back some memories, did you perform with like Orion and B2K back in the day? I think you did.
Yeah.
Now because now I'm thinking about it.
That was
stories,
the second group.
And I think I actually saw you guys in Hollywood perform and when Orion was trying to do his albums.
Yes.
So
And
I did
Orion had
see
a
it.
really
Wow.
good album. Orion's album, I love Orion's. He
He
was
was signed to TUG Entertainment, right?
correct. I wasn't.
No, but
No,
he
yeah,
was.
but he was. And he had like he was ahead of his time musically. Where music is now with the Her and the SZA, that was Orion back
So
in our teenage years. He was very like vibey.
he was a nice guy at the back in the
Yeah,
day. He was
he's
a young kid.
yeah.
Right?
So
And was B2K out at the time, or were they coming out at the same time?
coming out. No. B2K was already out.
So BTK, because I think I remember this. I think I was actually in Hollywood, going to see, I think B2K, Orion. I think it was actually Orion performing. And
I
there
think
was a girl group.
my girl group did a something way smaller with them, a promo thing with them.
I think in the beginning, because I remember a girl group. I'm not sure if that was you or not.
Probably. And
Crazy.
but yeah, so my focus, like I knew what it was going to take to get to where I wanted to be, and I felt like the girls in my group really didn't. And so not only was I not willing to conform, I wasn't distracted. Like the only thing that I had on my plate was school and music. So that was all I did.
And you were getting paid from the label, or?
No, so at the first...
You were signed to a music group, but you were not getting paid?
No, our band dismembered because one of them was around chasing the stuff, and then she never came back. Literally.
Was that the first group or second group?
That was the first group. That group, Lyrica Anderson, was actually the lead singer of that group. And I'm not too clear on the story. There's no beef between Lyrica and I, so I don't want to tell it wrong. So I will preface it by saying I'm not very clear. I know what my father and I were told by Adrian Gervitz, who was managing the group at the time, which was Lyrica G was managing Lyrica Anderson. And for whatever reason, the reason was never disclosed, but Lyrica had not been reachable for weeks at this point. And they needed another lead singer. So I believe it was Ricky Minor who knew Adrian, or Tony Shepard. One of my dad's colleagues knew this manager. This manager had put the word out for a new lead singer, and they called my dad and asked about me. I went in, I auditioned, and I think there was like maybe 2 girls that auditioned after me. And that was like the most antagonizing wait. And I was like, did you hear anything? Did you hear anything? And finally, my dad heard back. And he told me one day when I got home from school that they had picked me. That I could.
You were the lead singer?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, but I could only rehearse on weekends. I wasn't allowed to go during the weekday because I had school. But my other 2 group members were already homeschooled. And so I wanted to do home studies, but I wasn't allowed. So I say that to say that, when I got into it, my structure was a lot different. I had to go to bed because I had to get up for school. I had to do homework. If I wasn't doing well, I didn't get to go rehearse and hang out with my group members. Like, I had to stay home and study.
How'd you feel?
It was frustrating and I didn't get it, but now I'm grateful. Like, I have a full scope of understanding when it comes to everything from the artistry, everything in between, all the way down to the nitty-gritty of the business. And there's just some things, I take pride in being someone who has not slept her way anywhere. I'm sure that if I had, I'd probably be a lot further along. If I had listened to the things that my dad was telling me, before I was like, I'm going to do this on my own and you're old school, I probably would be a lot further along. But
does that stuff happen in the industry? I mean,
all the time.
But a lot of people out there really don't know.
Yeah, man.
They talk
people
about
will
it.
Sleep their way to the top. Or one of my biggest challenges was and still is, I always get tested.
What does that mean?
Meaning men will test you. So there's always that thing where they make you feel like, oh, they believe in you. And this is a very male-dominated industry.
Like Taz. Taz is in the industry, and she told me it was super hard because she was a lesbian.
It's hard.
And she
Even
said
if
that
you're
she
not
was
a lesbian.
Black female. And she said she was trying to be in the music industry. And she said she
Yeah.
had one of the most successful groups of all time, which was B2K. She did You Got Served, House Party.
Mm-hmm.
But she said to me that, Ty, you will never understand what it's like, to be a lesbian and a black female. And honestly, I don't because I think everybody's kind of equal, and maybe that's
Right.
very naive of me to say that, but
Well, that's what I thought until
what's
I
that
had
like?
it's annoying because you're talented, you're smart, and you know that you're not looking for a handout just to hand up. All you want to do is create. That's your only intention, is just to make music. When I was 15, 16, you want to be Beyonce, Now that I'm older, I just want to make music that people can relate to. I just want to make music. I'm not trying to be a megastar. I just want to touch people and be able to provide for myself and my son. That's it. And it becomes very disheartening when you encounter people that could potentially help alter the course of your career and ultimately your life. And they sell you this dream, and so they don't try you right away. They don't test you right away. They'll put a meeting on the books, but it's let's have a lunch meeting. And I used to fall for that all the time. Like, okay, great. As in my mind, I'm thinking, as long as it's in a public place, right? No harm, no foul. And they do talk business. Okay, well, let's put a meeting on the books. Let's get in the studio and let's just vibe. Okay, cool. So you go in the studio and you vibe. They don't touch you. They don't say anything inappropriate. You're like, awesome. And then they're like, okay, well, the next time you come, I'm going to shoot you some records, get them written. So I'd be like, okay, great. Wow, this mega producer sent me records, and I would tell my dad, and he would always say, be careful. And I'm like, God, this is why I don't tell you anything. I'm off to the races, And so then I would get in the studio, and it was never just me by myself. They would have people around. I would always bring friends. And then it was the inappropriate comments start. Hours have gone by. I'm not in the booth. Everybody's drinking. Everybody's smoking. But then they're mad because I have an attitude. And now this is why they don't want to work. This is why you're not going to get anywhere. Just relax. No one else, and you're coming here with your bad vibe. It's like, okay. So that taught me a big lesson. So you're never going to know if I'm not going to not take a meeting. I'm not going to not, give someone the chance to do what they say they're going to do. But now it's just my fuse is a lot shorter and I know the signs. So I'm not going to a lunch meeting. But you can come to my session and you can listen to my music. We don't need to vibe. I know exactly where I want to go. I know what I want to sing about. I know what mentality I'm in right now. And that's the music that I want to make. Because I'm a creative.
So your focus is what you're saying.
I'm focused. So we're not meeting at fucking Chin Chin or whatever, La Petite Four. We're not doing that.
Why is that with entertainers? Because Sean will tell you, and I'm going to be honest with you, I am not cut out for entertainment when it comes to the bullshit.
Yeah, it's annoying.
And not that I'm New Yorkish, because I'm definitely West Coast, but I don't like when people waste my fucking time.
It's
and it
really annoying. It's
right?
annoying. So now I'm like, look, we can save ourselves the headache, okay? So you can come to my session. I no longer send records because I feel like if we're going to actually work, your level of commitment is in how you actually, in this business, physically show up.
But hold on. Let me ask this. In entertainment, there's like the stigma and some kind of like you have to be cool, you have to be calm, collective. Does that hurt you because you're so real out there and you tell people what time it is that maybe they think you're a little off? Or is it just you just want to be real and that's not accepted?
It could be harmful if you don't have somebody in your corner of real success backing you up. So my only saving grace has been my dad. If no one knew me, right, if no one knew that was my dad and I just popped up on reality television one day and then said I wanted to be a singer, you would, based off of the way they portray me on reality television, you would be like, this girl's a live wire and she's a liability. Hell no. But thank God I have my dad and I have the people that actually matter. So consumers matter and fans matter, yes. But to even get that far, the people that really matter are the Grammy award-winning, Grammy-nominated
10
writers.
times, right?
10 times, writers, producers, engineers, studio owners, guitar players, piano players, drum players. Those are the people that matter because those are the people that are going to give me a hit for my dad to put in front of this one, or for me now to put in front of this one and that one. So the people that matter know who I am and know where I come from. So
and where you were trained,
and
because
right.
yeah.
And so they're like, we don't even pay any attention to that shit. Like you're good over here.
You know, on a business level, you know, me having worked on a TV show, and it's still, you know, in the works of coming out, you know, 4 years later, which has been insane. But, you know, there's a lot of BS that you go through. There's a lot of waiting, hurry up and wait. And, you know, for the business I'm currently in, which is real estate, you know, you do contracts, everything is kind of to the book and to the T. Entertainment is really not like that. And a lot of people out there, they think that, you know, you do entertainment, you're going to hurry up and be a star and this and that. It's not what everybody, you know, should want to be, because a lot of celebrities don't want to be celebrities. Maybe they don't want to be hit up or with all the negative comments, because, you know, the truth of the matter is there's a lot of negativity, and it's not always positive, you know. And a lot of stars like yourself, you know, you have to take all these negative comments, and you have to have real thick skin. And it's not what it's always cracked out to be. They think that, you know, that you're not human sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I've learned to separate, and it's a recent, I won't say I've learned, I'm learning to separate. So now what I do is I allocate literally 10 minutes. So I wake up, I let the dog out, right? And I sit outside and I go on my social media, my Instagram, my Twitter, and now my Facebook. I check for message requests that are business related. That's the first thing I do on all 3 platforms. Then on Instagram in particular, I will repost positive things about my music only on my story. Very rarely now do I share my son, my family, my relationship, my personal life. I'll repost those things, and then I'll take time to like a few comments. And then I make sure that in my tagged photos is nothing but me and my music. That's it. I don't want to see this person's ad or that person you're trying to get it. I don't want those, because I'm trying to rewrite my narrative. So I'll like a few comments. I'll respond to a few comments. I highlight the business inquiries that I feel are legit. I repost a few things about music, and I don't really check my social media throughout the rest of the day.
Had how many albums come out?
1 independent album, 1 mixtape under my label, well, old label, Con Live, but 1 independent album.
And so was that back in the day when they had like Tammy Chen, or what? When was that? When did that actually come out?
What, my mixtape?
Yeah,
2013.
Was Akon on that?
I had 1 record with him that was pulled from the mixtape, which is what angered me. And then the label was like, we're not going to put it out. We're not going to push it. And I was like, wow. And so I backdoored him and went to a DJ that he had introduced really to the whole label. And I said, hey, you know how hard I worked on this project. I got minimal help from Con.
What did that mean to be signed to Akon? Akon at the time was the top of his,
Well,
industry.
see, that's the thing. He wasn't at the time. Young Money was taking over. And it's always hard being signed to another artist, because if that artist is not at the top of their game, no one really takes anything seriously that they want to do. So getting the rest of us out was going to be hard to do regardless. So I backdoored him and I went to DJ Noodles myself and was like, hey, Mike G dropped the ball, Con dropped the ball.
Mike G was part of that?
He was in-house management.
Wow.
So I'm like, they just don't give a shit, I hate them. Can you please host the mixtape and put it out? Because this is, like, I worked really, really, really hard, And so he was like, I got to talk to them. And so finally, I guess he got a hold of Con. And Con was like, yeah, go ahead and whatever, but pulled this and told him not to use the like the jail cell sound and the convict. So he didn't give me that stamp of approval and pulled the record. So I was like, okay. And it wasn't until the first season of the show that I was actually free from the label. And then
What was the point of signing you? So they signed you, and what did they give you in the advance? What was that point?
now here's the thing. And I want to take the time to say this. This is actually really important. I don't ever really talk about that deal because I don't ever want to say anything negative about Khan or the team. And the reason is I learned a lot there. A lot of what to do, what not to do, how to grab your musical life by the balls and just not take no for an answer. But at the time that I was signed, 2010, I was going through this custody battle with my son's father, and I didn't have any money. And my mom and dad had kicked me out. And he came around at the perfect time, and they gave me a bonus so that I was a tax write-off and I didn't have to pay it back versus an advance. That bonus I used to pay for studio time, beats, mixing, mastering, photo shoot, the editing, the wardrobe, the hair, the makeup, as well as my attorney fees to get into a place, to get a car, and to fight to get my son back. So for that, I felt for a long time forever indebted to him. You know, like he really didn't owe me or my son anything. We weren't his responsibility. So when you kind of put it into perspective like that, it was, for a long time, I felt like, well, I can't really bitch and complain about my project not being out, like, you know. But then when I really analyzed the business aspect of it, like, the way you paid me was also business for you, you know? So, all right, now I got to be on my business. Like, I got to handle my business. Like, this is whack. I'm a sitting duck. It's been how many years? And so I really appreciate, you know, them for that.
Have you talked to Khan since?
Oh, my God. I haven't spoken to Khan in shit. I can't tell you how many years. I think it's been season 1 was the last time we spoke. I got a release. And then might have been, season 1. And then Treva's son and I actually.
Rock, right?
Rock. We were using his studio at his house. He wasn't around, but he made
Drew,
sure. Yeah,
was
but
there, right?
Who?
Big
Drew was there to let me in.
It's crazy, you know. I'm just a real estate agent, but I know a lot of these people.
Yeah,
I don't know how.
So, and shout out to Big Drew. Big Drew actually went on to employ my brother at his security company. Yeah. So
oh, really?
yes.
You know, I employed them and I gave them a lot of business.
No, I did not know.
Patrol Security Services, and shout out to them, right?
Yeah, I would never know. And that came to be randomly. I hadn't spoken to anybody from the label literally since like 2014. And I just so happened to run into Drew while I was at lunch with my brother at P.F. Chang's.
Wow. So recently, we'll say within the last, year here, you've come out with an album. Mm-hmm. And you're working on your second album, right? Mm-hmm. What's that like?
I immediately got to work on the second album as soon as the first one came out.
Is that independent, by the way?
Independently. So actually, before the first one came out. No, right after. So I started, I dropped the album, and then I actually paid for my own way to different cities and states, and I did album promo primarily in Atlanta because actually, I dropped the first album, and then the response was overwhelming, is what happened. And I learned that Atlanta was one of my biggest demographics.
Hold on, let me ask this. With social media, because you said you dropped the album and you said the response was overwhelming, did it have to do with a lot about your social media, your Twitter, your Instagram?
So I have no management, no label, no publicist. The album cracked top 20 on Apple Music.
Wow.
First night within the first 3 hours, and it stayed within the top 20 for 3 days, and then it stayed within the top 40 for like a week. And the response that I got from the public was so overwhelming.
So response from the public, that's really like, do you ever give yourself a pat on the back or you just keep it moving?
Absolutely. I was really proud of myself, especially because I was not in a good place by the time the album came out. I was going through a lot. So I started to get a lot of media inquiries, and primarily from the southern regions. So I paid my own way and did crazy press in Atlanta.
Atlanta
And then
is weird too, because if they love you, they
love you.
That's
And
it.
so I was like, I had no idea that was one of my biggest demos. And I was like, wow. So I also forgot how many producers and writers I know from there and have worked with from there. But so much time goes by that I forget that I only work with them once in a blue moon. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start the second album here. And then I went back, and I did. I started the second album there. And then life happened, and I got slowed down, but I'm back on it. So I'm collecting records right now. I'm going to do a lot more writing this time on this album. And I'm honing my live performance skills. I'm about to start choreo with one of my old group members. Wow. She was a professional dancer for years. She danced for Missy, Usher, Little John, Chris, everybody. So she's going to get me back like into the groove of moving. And I think I'm going to kick my live sets up a couple notches. So
being more of a performer.
Being more of a performer. And then I'm going to get this second album out. This is my last season on Love and Hip Hop, so I'm happy to be done. I'm grateful for what the platform has monetarily afforded me to be able to do. Because when I got on the show, I was not in a place to be able to provide for myself or my son. So I'm grateful for that portion of it.
So there's no option to go back in your mind?
Not right now, no. I never want to be one of those cast members who's like, no, I'll never be back. And then when the money runs dry, you're back on Love and Hip Hop, you know? So I would never say never. I would simply say that if I were to ever return, it would have got to be strictly promotional. Like, it would have to be because I've really been focused on the music. The music has done so well, and the game has once again shifted, and I need this multi-million-dollar media marketing platform, right? Then I would go back for a one-off, but I would never be, I can't.
But like people like Cardi B, I mean, it's obviously kind of boosted their career. And
No, I have to disagree.
Really?
No.
I thought Mona was responsible for that. No?
I love Mother Mona. Hey, girl. So let me not discredit. I think Cardi's saving grace was that she did 2 seasons and that her music was not the focus. Because you saw her fight for that. And prior to her being on the show, you saw these funny videos in her bonnet with her little baby teeth and whatever. And she was funny and she was abrasive. But there was always struggle and truth in everything she said. She was the underdog. You saw her arguing with DJ Self. You saw her arguing with Swift. You saw her arguing with this one and that one. But then you saw her, defend Little Mariah and defend this one. And she was, she went at it with DJ Drew and Sky. And so you always saw her fighting for her artistry, right? So when she did not come back, people really wanted that for her. And so I think I kind of paid attention to that. And season 4, I chose to keep my music off the show.
Because of what she's done?
Because I realized that the less you give it to the show, the less it can be made a mockery of, right?
So do you think gender plays a role in the music industry?
I absolutely know for a fact that gender plays a role in how successful you are in the music industry. If you're a woman and you're harder, okay, so this is going to sound really fucked up, but if you're ugly, right? If you're not the most attractive woman, but your talent is undeniable, I feel like you're respected way more. If I walk in the door fully made up, like I'm going to sing for you, right? There's a good chance that I don't get the listening ear.
Really?
Because you would think that it would be the opposite. Oh, she's pretty. Yeah, let me hear what you got. they want to talk about a million other things before they get there. If you're ugly, or I don't want to say ugly, but not so attractive, or what society would say isn't pretty, and you walk in and you're like, let me sing for you. They just want to hear you sing because they just want you to get out. It's like, they just want to get it over with, you know? And then you blow their socks off and they're like, wow, have you ever heard of this one? Let me put you with this one. And next thing you know, this person is either plastered all over the internet or they're penning records, hit records for some of the biggest artists.
Like, who are we talking about? Like Adele?
No, okay, you know what? I use Adele. I use Adele as an example all the time.
Her husband's divorcing her, by the way.
I don't care about any of that. I don't know anything about that. I don't care. What I know is, as a mom, if I had a daughter, right, I want my daughter to look up to Adele. Adele was so successful because, first of all, I think that consumers and creatives need to take this one thing, and my dad said this to me and it stuck with me forever. There's no song that you can sing that has not already been sung. There's no song that you can write about, no subject matter that you can write about that hasn't already been written. What sets you apart is your delivery. Do I believe you? Can I feel your pain, your joy? Can I really feel how much you love this person when you sing about that? Can I really feel how badly they broke your heart when you sing about that, right? That's what's going to set you apart.
And Adele did it.
And Adele did that, number one. Number two, what sets her apart is she is not your average cookie cutter Barbie doll figure. As most women are shaped like her. They're not shaped like Beyonce. They're shaped like Adele, right? And so you see her, the more successful she gets, you see her taking care of herself, but not losing herself, right? So as a mom, I want my daughter to listen to, and if she's going to idolize any female, Adele. I'm going to buy her this expensive ass Adele ticket and merchandise before I buy her a ticket to go see whoever else, right? Because my daughter's big and she's frumpy. I'm not saying that about Adele. I'm just saying she's not the popular girl in school. She gets teased, she gets bullied, right? And she can look to Adele, who looks like her.
A person that sold 19 million records. Her first
Adele
album.
was correct. She broke records that no one has broken since Michael Jackson.
So, if you were 18 years old again, what would you give yourself for advice?
Myself, I wouldn't give myself any advice, but someone new coming, because I wouldn't know. I don't know. But if I were to run into an 18-year-old girl tomorrow or today who's like, oh, I want to be you, I'd be like, girl, don't. You don't want to be me. This is a tragedy over here, okay? Honey, life's a mess. But you can do it. It's really important if you have parents to keep your parents involved. Never go to a meeting or a session without some type of representative, and I would venture to even say a legal representative right out from the beginning, because you want to be respected. You want them to know that you know the business, number one. Number two, you want them to know that there's no way they can ever get over on you, take advantage. And number three, you want them to know that you're serious about your craft. And never chase anyone down to work with you. Like the people that really see the value in you as a person first, and then your artistry second, they'll find you. However it is, be it social media nowadays, be it you're just out networking. And that's the other thing. I was really shy. And so I didn't network. You know, my dad would always push me like, you know, you go talk, you go introduce yourself. So networking is really important, and I'm trying to do better at that now. So I would always say networking in your desired career path. If it's music, only attend music events. You know, if it's painting, only go to the paint and sips and only go to the art galleries. Don't go anywhere else or do anything else. Like, really submerge yourself in your passion, whatever it is.
Moniece, it has been a pleasure to have you today. First off, How does somebody connect with you? How do they find you on social media? Can you give us all that?
Is this thing on? Well, they can find me right now on Instagram is where I'm the heaviest, but I've been really kind of lax lately. Like I expressed earlier, I'm kind of learning to separate the two, but I do check in from time to time on Instagram. It's just my first name, Moniece_Slaughter. My Twitter is still my artist name from when I was on Con Live. I can't change it or I lose my verified badge, so it's Cali's World with a K, Kalis World. And there's like a million Facebook imposters, so I don't even know how you would find my legit page, but it's just my first and last name. And more importantly, my YouTube channel, Moniece Slaughter. If you're wondering if you find or have found the right page, it's got one video on it, just my music video for riches. But I really want people to subscribe to the YouTube channel because I've got a lot of stuff that I'm working on that I'm actually going to be releasing on the YouTube channel, given that this is my last season on reality TV. Another way for them to get a personal look into my life, more specifically my music. As I've now begun to shield my family dynamic and not really share that so much. Just my personal day-to-day and really this music journey, because it's about to be quite the struggle as an independent artist who is soon to be unemployed. Come through, Jesus, make a way, yay!